Hi everyone, and welcome back to the Investing Equestrian. For today's video, I wanted to do a deep dive into monthly horse budgets, particularly mine for the month of August. When I'm doing my monthly budgets, I have what's called fixed expenses and variable expenses. Fixed expenses are anything that is reoccurring and expected. Some things that are fixed include board, insurance, and my variable expenses are things such as training. I include farrier, even though he gets done every 5 to 6 weeks, I still like to put it as a monthly expense, and you'll see why as I'm doing the breakdown. Vet, maintenance, which can include chiropractor, MagnaWave, any kind of health or performance aid that helps him, get him feeling his best. Any kind of supplement, shopping for either me or Finn, any kind of showing, so upcoming competitions, and then miscellaneous, which is just anything else that doesn't fit into the broader category. So without further ado, come budget with me as we break down my monthly horse expenses for August 2025. So my board just recently went up. Earlier this summer, our barn owner sent out an email to all the current boarders explaining that there's going to be improvements going on in the barn, which I'm so excited about. But because of that, they are going to increase the board, which I was totally fine with. I'm all for improving. We know this industry is expensive, and I was really happy that they sent out an email prior to actually just increasing the board. They let everyone know, and I believe they gave about 2 months warning just so that everyone knew what to expect, which I really appreciated. I was paying $850 for board, now it's $900, and I pay $100 extra for shavings and for him to be hoof picked. So the board total is $1,000 for me. That includes stall, care, feed, basically everything but training for the horse, plus I have the addition of shavings and hoof picking for him. Now for horse training, I typically budget about $600 for this. My training rides and lessons are $50 each. I typically take about 2 lessons a week, plus I have 1 training ride per week, so that's about $600 for the month. Farrier, my farrier is usually around $350. Finn does get his feet done every 5 to 6 weeks. I do put this as a monthly expense just because I want to make sure that I have the extra cash for it. And if I just so happen that it's a month that he doesn't need his feet done, usually those expenses or those costs are going elsewhere in the horse budget, whether that's for a MagnaWave treatment, chiropractor, or in my case, as it's been a vet exam or vet visit. So that money isn't just free money lying around, it's usually going somewhere else in the budget. So that's why I always include farrier in my monthly costs. So horse insurance, Finn's insurance is $214.09. Now I do pay my insurance, that's not for the entire year. I pay my insurance by 9 months. It is a little bit more money up front than January, February, March. I don't have to pay insurance because I've already paid that for the 9 months. So that's why it's a little bit higher for me for the 9 months out of the year. Vet, honestly, I really don't budget anything monthly for vet, and same thing with maintenance, supplements, and everything else, just because those are not expected, and I hope some are not reoccurring. I don't usually put anything in there. If I do know that I have a show coming up, or I do know that, supplements will be needing to be bought that month, I will include that in the budget. But again, that's going to be a variable expense. That means that my total budget that I typically spend on Finn per month is $2,164.90. Now, here's what my actual August monthly horse budget turned out to be. For board, it was $1,000. Horse training, Finn had an abscess that we were dealing with for about 3 weeks. So my horse training costs were only about $120 this month. The reason that it wasn't $150, since lessons are $50 and training rides are $50, I got charged for a lesson, a pro ride. This was before he got injured, and I got charged $20 for specialist assistance, which basically means that my trainer was holding Finn for me while the farrier was there. Farrier costs, my farrier costs for August were actually $169.06. That does include, I think it was like $9.60, which included for tax, state tax on top of that. But this was an interesting month because we were messing around with Finn's shoes a little bit and trying to get him into something that he was more comfortable in and something that was weather appropriate. If you were in the Northeast, you know, actually anywhere in the country, I'm sure, it has been a very wet summer, and Finn's feet were really suffering from it. So we were trying some different shoes out, and this visit in August was actually just to do the back feet because his front feet and back feet were on a different rotation because they have different shoes. So that's why it was less than normal, but I'm sure my September bill will be a lot more just because he will be on the rotation for his front and his back to get done. So that'll be a hefty bill, I'm sure. Horse insurance is nice because it's always the same. We did have a couple vet visits out this month. Some were routine, some were not. The first vet visit included vaccination, sheath cleaning, and he did get tested and vaccinated for strangles. He also had a visit for a chiropractor from the vet, and he did get a lameness examination just when we were dealing with that abscess. Altogether, my vet bills for August were $795. Maintenance, you could put chiropractor in maintenance, but because it was done by my vet and it was on my vet's bill, I'm going to include it in the vet category, although you could do it in maintenance depending on how you're charged. Supplements, didn't need any supplements. I usually buy my supplements in bulk, meaning that it's usually greater than a 90-day supply. Typically, I like to do, if they can, 120 days supply, but if they can't, I'll just take their largest. Get a little bit of a discount if you buy in bulk, and it lasts longer. So that's what I typically like doing. So no supplements this month, although I think he is getting low, so he is going to be ready probably next month or the month after. I will need to buy his supplements. Shopping, I didn't do any shopping. I really haven't done any shopping lately, to be honest, although I'm pretty sure I'm gonna be needing new riding boots in the next month or two. They are just getting so worn. That will probably be an expense either for September or October. Showing, he was dealing with the abscess for a couple weeks. There was a couple shows the 2 weeks after he was feeling better, but I didn't want to show him just because he was just getting back into work. I was just getting back into riding, and I really didn't want to push him. So we've really spent this time developing his flat work, getting his stamina back up again, getting his muscle that he lost while he was out back before we start showing. Hopefully later in the fall we'll be able to do some shows, but as of now we're just focused on training and getting him back into tip-top shape. And then we didn't have any miscellaneous expenses this month, so my actual was $2,299.50, which means that I was $134.60 over, which to me is really good actually, considering that the vet bills this month were extensive. So to come in just over budget, because everything with the farrier and training kind of evened everything out, which I'm really thankful for. You can see here how your actual expenses can really outweigh your budget that you have, which is why as a horse owner, you always have to make sure that you have some kind of emergency fund in order to cover all of this. Now, something that I do want to add is that my barn is very upfront and transparent about any cost. They're not shy about it, and this is something that I think is so overlooked in the horse industry. My trainer and the barn owner, they know that their service and what they offer is worth that price. Anything that shows up on my invoice is pretty much expected. My trainer, she has a price list of what everything costs, including for showing, that she gives to the clients. Even for something like the handler assistance, I knew ahead of time that the farrier was coming out, My trainer was more than likely going to have to be holding him because he does require a little bit more of an in-depth farrier assessment and job. For me, when that invoice came in, I was already expecting it, didn't have to question it. And I can't even explain as a client how reassuring and just like relieved I am to, you know, have a place that is so transparent about pricing, especially for someone like me who's so type A, who, you know, budgets every little penny. Just knowing where my money's going and why I'm spending it is just really nice. And why I can actually do a monthly horse budget. So yeah, that was my August 2025 expenses, and we're gonna go budget for September soon. Stay tuned.